Hello, this is Pastor Adam, and welcome to Devotionables, brief devotions for busy people. Today, we've got Psalm 29 ahead of us, and I just want to read this for us. It's a short enough psalm, so we can have the context of what the Lord's speaking to us today through Psalm 29. Ascribe to the Lord, O heavenly beings. Ascribe to the Lord glory and strength. Ascribe to the Lord the glory due his name. Worship the Lord in the splendor of holiness. The voice of the Lord is over the waters. The God of glory thunders, the Lord over many waters. The voice of the Lord is powerful. The voice of the Lord is full of majesty. The voice of the Lord breaks the cedars. The Lord breaks the cedars of Lebanon. He makes Lebanon to skip like a calf, and Syrian like a young wild ox. The voice of the Lord flashes forth flames of fire. The voice of the Lord shakes the wilderness. The Lord shakes the wilderness of Kadesh. The voice of the Lord makes the deer give birth and strips the forests bare. And in his temple all cry, Glory! The Lord sits enthroned over the flood. The Lord sits enthroned as king forever. May the Lord give strength to his people. May the Lord bless his people with peace. As you can tell, this is a psalm of worship. As it starts out, the psalmist tells us to ascribe to the Lord. What does that mean? To ascribe to the Lord glory and strength. The glory due his name, the splendor of holiness. When we ascribe something, it's to regard something or someone as having a certain quality. So are we saying like the Lord has glory and strength because we say so? Well, no, that would be wrong. But what the psalmist is telling us as we ascribe to the Lord, it is rather us reminding ourselves of the glory, of the power, of the holiness of the Lord. For us, it's kind of getting our hearts warmed for worship. It's been cold here in Louisville recently, and I love one of our cars has a remote start on it, gets it nice and warmed up before I have to go in. This is doing the same thing. Before we really get going with worship, this is warming up our hearts for of recognizing and reminding ourselves who the Lord is. Notice next the setting of the psalm. Over the waters, glory thunders, the God of glory thunders, over many waters. There's a thunderstorm brewing. Now I'm sure many of you have recognized when you're in your house and a big thunderstorm hits and like that thunder cloud's right over your house and the house shakes, just the power that you feel coming off that storm. Imagine though it's like ancient Near East and you're in a little hut and that same thunderstorm comes around. I would be so scared. The glory of the Lord is in the thunder. But it is really common in this day for those to think that the pagan god Baal was the god over water and the god over the thunderstorms. And what's the psalmist reminding us? Well, no, don't worry about that false god. Our God doesn't have his power found in thunderstorms. No, he's actually over the thunder. He's over the water. The voice of the Lord is what's truly powerful. You may think thunder is powerful. No, look at the voice of the Lord. And I think that's so interesting that the psalmist focuses again and again on the voice of God. We're focused on God's power and glory, but he points out only this one instrument of God's splendor, his voice. It is by the voice of God only that the strongest of trees crack in half. It is by the voice of God only that nations jump, are startled like a young animal. It is by his voice only that life comes forth, and by his voice destruction comes to an entire ecosystem. It is by his voice that all cry out glory. I'm sure we recognize that our words, our own voices, have very little power or impact. I try to tell my dog to sit, stay, lay down, and she doesn't listen to me unless I have a treat in my hand. And you may say, Adam, that makes you a poor dog owner. And I say, you've just never met my dog. The Lord, when he speaks, creation begins. One of the most common questions that Christians struggle with is, how do I hear the voice of God? We recognize the power in the voice of God. The church today is totally mystified with God's voice, how to hear it, how to follow it. And it's almost as if only the superior, holiest of Christians hear God's voice in such a specific way just for their lives, where it's able to guide them in the most specific and minute details. I'll be honest, I've never heard an audible voice of the Lord tell me where to go or what to do. I've never seen God's direction written for me in the stars. And yet, the Lord speaks to me. And yet, He guides my path. And how? Well, by the word that He's given us. So often, we are looking for answers from God, that He would speak to us. Lord, speak to me in this situation. Lord, I'm looking to you. I want to hear your voice. And then we have to remind ourselves, He has given it to us. He's given us His word, through which He speaks to us directly. The voice of God is powerful. And yet it's just one aspect of His immense glory. And it's in one aspect of His immense holiness. So listen to it. Let Him speak to you directly through the revealed word. And as we sit in God's word and as we worship Him for His glory and splendor, may we recognize that we worship a King who is seated on His throne forever. And as we worship Him, we recognize He gives us strength and peace to follow what He's called us to do. May the Lord bless you today. Thanks for listening.